Hey, these brothers. Man, I was getting ready to shut it down, but I really want to share something with y'all. And I want to share it, man, because if I would have known this a few years ago, it would have saved me a lot of what I was calling procrastination. It would have saved me a lot of time. It would have saved me a lot of mental confusion, right? And the thing is, man, never share your next move before the play is called, bro. Never share your next move before you call that play. You know, and all of us know this because it's been said a million different ways. You know, people say, hey, don't let everybody know, what your next move is. But unless you understand why, you really won't put a conscious effort into making sure you keep everything on the down low and not just start broadcasting your next move. It's the reason why you shouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? But before we even get into that, man, what you really got to understand is, I'll say this, 2 words you really got to understand. You really have to understand what vision is, and you really have to understand what prayer is for it all to make sense. And when I say your next move, that's really all I'm talking about. Never let anybody know what's inside of your mind. Never let anybody know what's inside of your heaven. That thing that you're getting ready to create, that vision you're making, that identity you're composing, that you're getting ready to become, the actual plays you're getting ready to run, the things you're actually getting ready to do. Never let anybody in that world until it's done, right? So that's your vision, right? That's your vision. You have to understand this. So I said understand vision and understand prayer. So that's vision. You have to understand prayer, and I know y'all have heard me say this a million times. I know we consider prayer to be, the getting on bended knee, or the going in front of the altar prayer, or going in front of the reverend or bishop, or reciting words, speaking to, oh Father God. I know we think that's prayer, and a lot of people may still consider that prayer. But you got to understand, when you're talking about prayer in its realest form, prayer is literally an energy, a state that you're putting out. Prayer is not a reciting of certain words. It's not getting holy in the church and things we all grew up knowing church to be. Church is a state of being that's exuding out of you. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, let's talk about this for a second. If someone is sick, let's say for example, someone has terminal 8, whatever sickness, right? And they come to you and say, hey, brother Joe Blow, hey, I need you to pray for me. I need you to pray for me that I get over this sickness, right? What most people will do is, make a sick and shut in list and put it in the church bucket. And on Sunday, everybody go to the altar and pray for for the brother, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because that's a form of affirming. And if you do it right, it can put you in the right state. But a lot of us are calling that prayer. That's not prayer. Prayer is that state, which means if you're really praying for your brother, that means that once he tells you that you're praying for him, once you tell him that you're praying for him, you're actually seeing him as a healed man. You're actually seeing him or her as a healed person. So in other words, when you talk to Joe Blow, the one that has the sickness, and y'all are having conversations, your whole demeanor, your energy, your conversation is speaking as if Joe Blow hasn't even been diagnosed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your demeanor. That means that once you go and talk to other brothers and sisters about Joe Blow, you ain't sitting there talking about when Joe Blow is gone. You're sitting there talking about you and Joe Blow taking vacation next summer, and y'all doing all these future things because your state of prayer, your state of being, the energy that's exuding outside of you about Joe Blow, right? It is stating that he's healed. So that's what prayer is, right? Now, to talk about what I want to talk about, man, you have to put those two things together. So in other words, people are always praying. People are always praying for you. I'm going to say it again because I really need this to soak in, man. You might be going through something and you might ask the deacons and so to pray for you. But you have to understand that everybody that knows you, everybody that has the slightest emotional connection with you are praying for you. Or praying for you. And I'll even say this, are praying for you in the sense that we always talk about, Praying, or they're praying for you, Preying. But at all times, people are praying. At all times, people are putting some kind of energy out about you and your well-being. So again, think about what I said, man. Never let anybody know your next move before you make it. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to understand their prayer is having an effect on your life. You know what I'm saying? For example, I remember when I was writing A Singular Truth. Man, I remember, man, when I first had that idea, brother, I was geared up and gung ho about writing that book. Had all my bullet points down. I had everything down. I had my book. Everything was lined out, and it was just a matter of me writing it. You know, I can remember coming on YouTube, but I can remember talking to some of my good friends and just people I knew saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm getting ready to write this book, da-da-da-da. I was going to be done in 6 months. It took me 2.5 years to write that book. What I thought was going to take me 90 days to 6 months max took me 2 years. That's why I'm saying I wish I would have known this earlier, man, because I was sitting there just telling everybody, hey, get ready, this book is coming out. Having no idea, man, that everybody you tell your vision to doesn't have your best interest, bro. They don't have your best interest. So when you might tell somebody, hey, you know, I'm getting ready to start this project. I'm getting ready, and I've done it a number of times. I'm getting ready to do X, Y, Z. And you got to understand, they may smile in your face. They might kiki and ha-ha and dap you up and talk about how y'all going to celebrate when it's all said and done. At the same time, man, their thoughts about you are saying, you know what? I really don't want him to win. I really don't want that sister to open up that practice or open up that beauty salon. I'm going to smile in their face. I'm going to like their content on YouTube and Instagram, but my heart, the energy that I'm putting out is saying something different. I'm really wishing for their downfall. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta understand people are praying for you at all times. So you gotta be very careful about what you're giving them access to. What information you're giving access to. And you gotta understand this. And this is my belief right here. Now that part right there is facts. That's facts. But this is my belief right here. I believe that, like, say for example, if I'm sitting there talking to a partner, right? We sitting there just one-on-one chopping up. And I just kind of tell that brother my vision. And I'm just kind of say, hey, man, this is what I got planned, man. Next year I plan on moving to Bahamas, bro. Next year I plan on da-da-da-da-da. Next year I plan on opening up a brick and mortar barbershop, man. I believe by me sharing that information directly to this brother, I believe I'm giving him access to my world. And it makes me think of the movie Sinners. You know the movie Sinners, man, where those people were like, hey, won't you invite me in? And they were like, hey, I never have to invite you in. Won't you, you know what to do. But you had to, in the movie, they had to give that person permission to cross that threshold of their house. I believe it's the same thing, man. I believe if a person kind of hears it through the grapevine and kind of hears, hey, man, I heard Soul is doing this, or I heard Chris is doing this, or I heard John is doing this. I believe that signal isn't as weak because you're going to have haters. Anytime you're making moves, there are going to be haters on the outskirts. There are going to be haters in the bleachers that are hating. But if you don't give that direct emotional tie to a person, I don't think they have as much of an effect as it would as if you're sharing that information one-on-one, via text, via phone call, via face-to-face conversation. I believe when you share your vision that direct, man, it gives them direct access to literally pray for you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, I don't want to make it sound like it's bad. Like, once you understand what I'm talking about, it goes both ways. Once you understand what I'm talking about, it goes both ways. You always hear me talk about the first marriage of man, right? Man marrying himself. Now I talk about the second marriage of man, a man and a woman coming together, right? That's when that praying together gets powerful once you start talking about that second marriage. But when you start talking about the third marriage of man, when you start talking about a whole community praying for you, and when I say community, I'm talking about like-minded people. Because of course I can give you the negative side, man. You telling somebody that really doesn't have your best interest about your next move. But think about this. Think if you're a part of a power circle, huh? Think about if you're attached to a power circle and you can come in front of your brothers and say, hey, you know what? This is what I got going on, brothers. This is the play I'm calling. This is where I see myself in the next 2 weeks, in the next 90 days, in the next 2 years. Now you got a whole league of brothers that can pray for you. Now you got a whole legion of brothers that can speak to you as if it already is. They can conduct themselves as if you already have the job. Conduct themselves as if you've already been healed from that illness. It goes both ways, man. So you gotta understand this. You gotta understand this. If you're gonna share your next move, man, make sure. I'm talking about be absolutely 100%, no doubt in your mind, 100% sure that person has your best interest. And your best interest, man, it might not be your blood brother. It might not be your father. It might not be your best friend. It might be a complete stranger that you just found along your journey in life, and now y'all are in the same tribe. You know what I'm saying? It might be the band of brothers that you have that y'all meet at the water cooler every day. It might be the band of brothers that y'all have in the power circle. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say this, man, and I say it all the time, brother. If I gotta just tell y'all what my brothers have accomplished over the last 90 days, last year and a half in the power circle, because of this one thing right here, having a like interest, having a marriage amongst brothers. But you would be amazed. You would think I was lying if I sit here and just told you 10% of what the brothers in the circle have accomplished. You know what I'm saying? But we understand. We understand there's a power behind sharing that information. There's a power behind it, man. That's all I'm saying, man, before I get around, shut down and go to bed. But I really was tired, man, but I want to share this. All I'm saying is be careful. Be careful who you share vital information with. Let me get my camera right, brothers. Be careful who you share vital information with, man, because people are either praying for you or they're praying for you, brothers. I'm about to bust my ass. Let me go to bed, man.